This week's Dark Side of the Ring focused on the story of professional wrestler Billy Jack Haynes. And if you notice when I write my articles on Stadium Rant when talking about Dark Side of the Ring, the first two words I always use is insane insights, because some of the people that talk on these shows are insane. Billy Jack Haynes takes that and multiplies it by 10. Like, this dude is Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. Like, he is legitimately one of the craziest individuals they've covered on the show. And that's with New Jack involved, because New Jack is another one who's not all there, and Marty Jannetty. This episode kind of felt like a Marty Jannetty type episode, and I'll get to why in a second. But Billy Jack Haynes is one of the classic examples of wasted potential ever in the pro wrestling business, because he had the look. He had the look of a pro wrestler. He was decent in the ring, and he was popular, especially in the Pacific Northwest region. But because of his screw-ups, he flushed it down the toilet. And the two words are cautionary tale that comes to mind with Billy Jack Haynes. So Billy Jack Haynes was big in the Pacific Northwest region in the Oregon territories. He actually got his start in pro wrestling at the age of 30. Mainly because he had a criminal record before he joined in. Like, I think he had a few assault charges on his name. And it was during that time when Billy Jack was limited in options. He heard about this thing called professional wrestling, and he thought about giving it a chance. So he decided to travel up to Calgary and get training from the Hart Foundation, or as I like to call, the Hart Foundation, which was the Hart Dungeon. Everyone got trained there, including the Hart Foundation, like I mentioned earlier, Brett, Owen, Anvil, Chris Benoit was trained up there, Natalia was trained up there, Tyson Kidd was trained up there. I mean, so many names to list. The thing that I didn't know coming into this was that Billy Jack was actually kicked out of the Hart Dungeon, which I've never heard any pro wrestler kicked out like that. And the fact that Billy Jack got kicked out goes to show how rough he was during the training process. And it was clear that Billy Jack was rough with a lot of people that he was in the ring with and during training. He sort of had a reputation of snapping on people, like very Jekyll and Hyde-esque. And there was a story of him slapping Paul Bear backstage for going off the script. In fact, there was a man, his name was Len Denton, who wrestled as the grappler. He straight up said he wrestled Haynes multiple times, but he could never trust him in the ring, which is just such an eye-opening thing for someone to say who knows Haynes and has wrestled with him. The craziest part of how he could snap was when fans called wrestling fake in front of his face in a diner. Probably not the brightest idea to do that in general, but when this one guy did it with Haynes, and I think it was a diner, Haynes went scorched earth on this man. He was beating the ever-living heck out of him, and it was just a total bit of craziness. That would continue throughout his time in Oregon. He actually got recommended by Rip Oliver, a name we're going to get into later, to wrestle for Don Owens' promotion in Oregon. They thought they would take a chance on him because he had the look. He had all the attributes you want in a professional wrestler, sort of say. And he was also a local guy, too, so he would be easy for them to book him as a babyface when the time came. So he does his matches in Oregon, and he got so big in the Pacific Northwest that the WWF gave him an opportunity to come wrestle for him. In fact, the peak of his wrestling career, especially with WWF, was his match against Hercules at WrestleMania 3, which that honestly is really the only memorable thing he did in WWF was that match with Hercules. They tried him out with Ken Patera in a tag team. Ken Patera was interviewed for this. They were going to be called the Oregon Lumberjacks. The original plan for them was to walk to the ring with chainsaws. So they were basically going to be Terry Funk, because he was Chainsaw Charlie in the WWF during the Attitude Era. But they would have done it first. And they could have been a good tag team. Like Patera, he had potential. And he was good too. But him and Haynes could have worked. But the problem is, Billy Jack, he flushed that opportunity right down the commode. He himself got interviewed while in jail. And he admitted drugs are not good and that he would he admitted to taking 20 to 25 pills a day. Think about how scary that is. You're traveling from place to place and you're taking all these pills. Insanity. It's no wonder he overdosed on a plane. And he gets to the story of why he got fired from WWF. The common two words was bad attitude, which, let's be real, Haynes had a bad attitude. But the plane ride where he overdosed was the final blow. And the doctors had to shock him multiple times to keep him alive. Like, he was on the edge of death. And they decided to let him go. And Ken Patera and Billy Jack were going to have a nice push for them. And they were going to be the tag champions. But that got all thrown out the door with Billy Jack getting fired from the company. So Haynes is out of WWF. He's burned a bridge. He decides to go back to Oregon. Don Owens is still running his promotion, so he thought that Haynes would come back and join him. Well, that ain't happening because Billy Jack Haynes decided to start his own wrestling promotion called the Oregon Wrestling Federation. There's a lot of stories about that promotion, none of which are good. I mean, there were multiple problems with Billy Jack. It was doomed from the beginning because Don Owens' Pacific Northwest promotion, it harmed Billy Jack's reputation, like especially with the fan base there, and it felt like a betrayal. Another problem is that he stiffed others in pay, which is never, like, if you're going to want to own a business, you have to pay your employees. Stiffing anyone on pay does not do you any wonders. I mean, look at what happened with Herb Abrams. He kept stiffing people on plane. The camera crew threatened to throw him off the building. Speaking of similarities to Herb Abrams, since Billy Jack Haynes was the owner of the promotion, he too is also on drugs, which just sounds like a great idea, you know? Like, you're addicted to the drugs, and being a loon like you are running a promotion, it was doomed to fail. It was doomed to fail. And Haynes was also borrowing money from shady investors, including the mafia. And Haynes admitted after his career ended in 1996, he would mainly become a cocaine dealer. And he was dealing it during his career. So then we get to Billy Jack, you know, talking about some of the wild stuff he said in interviews, because he hits the interview scenes. I've seen photos and videos of this man speaking with that haircut. He looks like Moe from the Three Stooges. You know, the haircut that Moe would have, you know, from Moe, Larry, and Curly. He looks like Moe, but he decides to dye his hair white. But they act the same because both Moe and the Three Stooges and Billy Jack in real life, like they have so many similarities. Billy Jack has made some crazy claims, and he even admitted that he was a part of an unsolved murder. And what happened was in 1987, two young men named Don Henry and Kevin Ives, I think his last name was, they were found killed on the train track. Billy Jack Haynes claims that he was involved in it, and he positioned them on the track to begin with because both stumbled on a drug deal that Haynes was involved with, and it resulted in the boys being killed. Basically, wrong place, wrong time. Haynes allegedly says he filmed the deal, but the worst part is, like, he claims, like, oh, he can't find the footage of it. And so he goes and admits this. He speaks to the mother. And the worst part is the mother of one of these guys believes him. Like, on news saying, oh, I believe it to be true. But here's the problem. Every detail Haynes gives is so unbelievable that the police couldn't take what he was saying seriously. And it does help that, like, with the tape, he claims it was either stolen or destroyed. And the way he describes it, he's just crazy. You know? And with the amount of times this man lies and tells crazy stories, I'm shocked they didn't put him in a program with Hulk Hogan during the golden era. Both liars, both piece of garbage human beings, you know. It's just, some of the stuff he says is out there. It's also out there. Some of his conspiracy theories. Now, look, there are some conspiracy theories out there. I'm like, okay, that's like, you're kind of crazy for thinking that, but I can see why you think that's true. Problem with Billy Jack Haynes is some of his conspiracy theories are just insanely bizarre. I don't know what the proper word to use is here. In fact, I got right here on my notes here a few bullet points of some of the things in the episode he claimed. Here we go. Billy Jack claimed that he was a cocaine dealer and he sent some of his products to Biggie Band, especially to Andy Gibb in 1978. He also claimed that his mother and uncle were murdered by two politicians who would cover it up. I don't know how he would know that. He doesn't show any proof of it. He also claimed that he went back and forth to Colombia to meet with cartel members to get cocaine, which I don't know if I believe him. I mean, he was a native in Oregon. That would be so expensive for him to go to Oregon to Colombia multiple times just to pick up coke. He also claimed that the Clinton family was also involved in the cocaine business. Yeah, they knew and they were involved in the coke, you know? They absolutely knew. Believable as heck. Not. He also claimed that Vincent Kennedy McMahon shouldn't be, the K shouldn't stand for Kennedy, it should be Killer because he killed Owen Hart in the Over the Edge 1999 pay-per-view. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I believe him there. He also claimed that 9/11 was an inside job and that the Bush family was involved. Give me a freaking break. I hate those type of people that claim that. And the kicker of all that he admitted, he once claimed that he was the son of Vince McMahon Sr. and is the half-brother of Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. I don't know how that works, but he admits it. But the craziest conspiracy theory, and I did research on this was not mentioned in the documentary. He once claimed, this involved the Chris Benoit murder-suicide. He once claimed that Nancy Benoit had a three-way with Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon, which, that right there is like, I don't know. He claims that one of two things happened. That Vince McMahon sent a hit out on Benoit, and that it all went wrong, resulting in the three being dead. Or that Chris found out, and he snapped. I mean, that is the most bat crazy thing I've ever heard him say. So he goes on the interview scene. He looks like a crazy man. He says these lies. He talks about the one time he got attacked in 2006, and this actually did happen. He was a bloody mess. They showed photos of this in the documentary. I mean, I don't even know how he was still alive after that attack. They talked to columnist Phil Stanford. Billy Jack Haynes got attacked in January of 2006 by two men, and he was showing the photos, and he's a mess. Haynes is a mess. According to Billy Jack, he claims that they were two hitmen that were hired by Jimmy Longoria of the Mafia. And the reason he got attacked was just a revenge play, where Haynes stole around $200,000 from Longoria in the deal back in the day. Here's the problem saying this, and I'm glad that this was said. Apparently, according to Haynes, before he got attacked, 16 years previously was when he sold a $200,000 deal. Why would they wait 16 years later to get revenge? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if someone stole $200,000 from you get after them immediately. That's a lot of do-re-mi. Why would these people wait 16 years to attack him on that? Again, it's Billy Jack Haynes. You need to be skeptical of everything the man says. And that's another reason. So now we get into Billy Jack. He's now homeless. He has financial issues. It's a really, really rough time for him. Billy Jack actually gets help from one Rip Oliver. Rip Oliver, like I mentioned earlier in this video, was the guy who talked to Dono and tried to get him into the company to take a chance on him. Rip Oliver was dealing with a ton of health issues, saw Billy Jack was living in a van, and offered, kindness to bring him into his house, and to make sure he, doesn't, like, he's taken care of. He has a home, he has a place to stay, food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Problem is that both were junkies. According to his son, like with Rip, like, dying, Billy Jack would steal his medicine and use it for himself. And these were like hardcore drugs to keep Rip pain-free. Billy Jack would steal them from him. Yeah, sounds like a splendid guy. What a way to repay someone. Thank you for giving me a place to stay. I'll take your drugs. Then they get into the Cauliflower Alley fraud thing. This was insane, and I'm shocked that Brian Blair hasn't sued Billy Jack for this. Now, the Cauliflower Alley, they helped pay for professional wrestlers with their medical bills, whatever they need, they helped out. And Billy Jack was thinking about calling these people for a claim that Rip Oliver owed back taxes on his house. And they got the money. Problem is, he's full of it. And his son admits, he did, there were no back taxes on the house. Billy Jack made it up. They took the money and they split it between the two men, which is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't even with this guy. Now, when Billy Jack was asked for this, they gave the screen of a quote. He said the following, and I got the quote right here. When asked about the allegations he stole Rip Oliver's pain medications and defrauded the Cauliflower Alley, Billy Jack replied, "Both allegations are bullshit, plain and simple. I'll tell you what's bullshit. The problem with a BS artist is you don't know when the BS stops and the truth begins with these people. Could he be telling the truth? It's hard to say with all the lies he says. I mean, it's crazy, man." So then they get into the relationship he has with his wife, who was 85 years old at the time. Her name was Jan Bierkraft. Both actually met each other. They had a connection with her son, Todd. Todd would, out of nowhere, would pass away in 2021. It was a shocking death. And it became close. They became close and eventually married. Seemed like a nice relationship, but the problem is, not a lot of people approved of it and thought it was weird, especially because Billy Jack at the time was 70. Jan was 85. Almost everyone close to them believed he was only using them. He was only using her for a place. And while Haynes, everyone knew that he was taking care of her, they didn't know that he was dealing with someone who had Alzheimer's, something cognitive was wrong with him and her. And it was just a messy scene. And I have family members who have dementia and Alzheimer's. It's one of the worst diseases in the world. It's brutal. And Billy Jack, taking care of her on February 8th, 2024, he did the unthinkable. He decides to grab a gun and kill his wife, and he claims it was a mercy killing. And it's tough seeing someone do that, especially to a loved one. But he claims the killing was a mercy killing. What wasn't mentioned in the documentary was that there was a 2-hour standoff between him and the police. So when the police discovered what happened, he was fighting back. So it wasn't a peaceful way for him to getting arrested. So now he is dealing with a weapons charge, and he is dealing with second-degree murder. He's pleading not guilty to the charges, and his trial is set for December 2025. And to me, when thinking about his case, I don't see how that man doesn't spend the rest of his life in bars. It's not good. And it's either that or he's going to he's going to be institutionalized, because the dude is legitimately crazy. He comes across like a schizophrenic crazy man. And again, they use the excuse of CTE that they could use to maybe get him out. I don't think this is just a simple case of CTE, because this man for years, decades, has shown the crazy side of him. He wasn't trying to hide it. So I don't think it's 100% CTE. Could it be CTE, a portion of it? Absolutely. But I don't believe it's 100% CTE, because he was always crazy. So that's the episode on the Dark Side of the Ring episode. It was a sort of a Marty Jannetty-esque type of episode where it's hard to take what he says seriously because of the stories they've told. But with Billy Jack, it's just a shame what happened with him. Next week's episode is going to be covering the Sheik, Ed Farhat. Another crazy one. He was the one that really helped begin hardcore wrestling. Like, he was doing crazy stuff like throwing fireballs, people bringing a snake in to the ring. Ed Farhat did a lot of stuff that nobody did, and I can't wait to review that episode as well. So that's my review for the Dark Side of the Ring episode for Billy Jack Haynes. I'll be back again next week to cover the Ed Farhat episode. I hope you liked the episode. Give this video a like, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to check out stadiumrant.com for other professional wrestling articles. I have articles on Dark Side of the Ring posted for most of the episodes. I'm going to continue doing this. Ringside Rant podcast will also be live on Thursdays at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Appreciate you guys taking time to watch this video. Give the like, subscribe, comment what you thought about the video. Have a good night, everybody. And remember, if you're not down with what we got to say, we got 2 words for you. Acknowledge us.